On April 18, 1951, a 24-year-old Iggy Caniff arrived in Canada on a boat from Europe. He'd spent the previous 10 years in Austria, and he had decided that his future lay across the ocean in Canada. He initially got a job with the Ship family, not the Ship Corporation. That's many years before they became the Ship Corporation, working for Gordon Ship Sr. as a laborer on one of their construction projects. When that job was completed, Gordon suggested that he go north to Rexdale, where Rex Hislop was developing and creating a community and employing a number of construction workers. In order to help him, he provided Iggy with a letter of introduction and said, "Give this to Mr. Hislop and I think he'll hire you." Iggy didn't speak much English then, but he left the next morning from Dixie near the Lakeshore Road and walked to Rexdale. He set out before 4 o'clock in the morning. Most of us don't know there's two 4 o'clocks. He set out before 4 o'clock in the morning and he arrived just before 10 to 8. Shortly after he arrived, the job superintendent came out of the trailer and announced to the 300 men gathered looking for day jobs that they wouldn't be hiring that day and they could all go home. Iggy worked his way to the front of the construction trailer, handed the superintendent the short note from Gordon Ship, and within minutes, Iggy had a job. However, the next day, he again started the long walk from Dixie Road in the Lakeshore. But prior to his arrival, a large black Cadillac pulled up alongside him on the road and offered him a ride. It was none other than the legendary Rex Hislop of Rexdale fame. When he learned that Iggy had walked all the way from South Lakeview, he introduced him to one of his job superintendents and asked him to drive him home and then pick him up the next day, as long as Iggy could walk up to Dixie and Dundas and meet him because he lived in Arundel. A short walk for Mr. Caniff. All of this because of the incredible work ethic that he brought to the job, even though he couldn't speak much English. By 1953, he decided it was time to venture out on his own, and Iggy bought a single lot in Lakeview and built his first home. By 54, he had built 3 homes, each time living in the basement of the unfinished houses during construction, all in order to save money. By 55, not the age, the year, he was trying to evolve into a better-known local realtor, local builder, when he was approached by a local real estate broker. Some of you might remember him. His name was Earl Clare. And Earl Clare suggested that maybe it would be a good idea if Iggy made a donation to the up-and-coming South Peel Hospital. And Iggy asked him how much would that cost. And he said, well, they were looking for a donation of $2,000. In 1955, $2,000 was a lot of money. Iggy said right away, yes, I will. I'll participate and I'll donate $2,000. Although he only had one problem, he didn't have the money. He went to the bank and he borrowed the $2,000 and gave it to the South Peel Hospital. When the hospital campaign chairman, Mr. Grenville Davis, the father of former Premier Bill Davis, learned of his generous gesture, he contacted Iggy and told him he would be sending as many of his clients from his law firm as were interested in buying new homes. They would be sent to Mr. Caniff as their builder. As this would save Iggy some $1,500 that he would normally pay to a broker, first time he didn't like brokers, a continuing thing in life, he donated half of the $1,500 each time one of those people arrived back to the hospital on top of the $2,000. When I talked to him about his amazing record of community philanthropy, he asked me not to mention it today. But he did tell me what his proudest donation was in all the years, including the number of universities and hospitals that he's donated to. He told me it was the $2,000 that he donated when he didn't have it. This country, this province, the region of Peel, and the city of Mississauga has always been incredibly benefited by the growth and the involvement of mass immigration in our area. The city is full of people who started life somewhere else in the world, but came here hoping for better opportunities for their families. These people include the likes of Iggy Caniff. But they've always looked for role models in this country, and Iggy Caniff is the role model of all time. Not only has he succeeded in creating immense wealth, a description of which, by the way, begins with a B, not an M, but he has provided employment for thousands and thousands of people along that journey, many of them new immigrants. When I asked him of this tremendous success and was it a source of pride to him, he answered by telling me that the real pride he has in life is that he and Dee Dee have 2 daughters who between them have 4 degrees from Georgetown, Oxford, Harvard, and Columbia, while their dad didn't finish grade 9. I've known this man for 55 years. I met him at the hospital when I was coming out. And during that entire time, he's always been a pillar of this community, with organizations that span everything from the Living Arts Center and the community living, where he's been their patron for over 25 years, to the University of Toronto and York University. But I know another side of Iggy, and most of you who know him, and I'm sorry, Ron, this might take 20 seconds, and it's not part of my time, it's part of Doug's. But I need to tell you this because Iggy is a consummate businessman who never makes a mistake. Everything he touches turns to gold. Everything he builds is a winner. Every golf course he makes is an absolute stellar creation. In 1969, Iggy attended our wedding. Janice and I got married in 1969, and we had rented an apartment right across from the Mississauga Hospital, a brand new apartment building, La Fontainebleau. And we were one of the first people to move in, and Iggy, through his warmth and kindness, gave us a dishwasher as a wedding present. Now, if he'd been as smart as everybody thinks he is, I've told him this probably 100 times. He would have built that dishwasher into the apartment, then I wouldn't have taken it when we bought a house and moved out. And he would have been able to rent the apartment to the next people for more money. You know, everybody does make a mistake now and again. But there is no greater example than of anybody we can point to of someone who came to this country and through hard work, dedication, and perseverance has arguably become one of the most successful citizens that Mississauga has ever produced. How can we not point to Iggy Caniff as the ultimate Canadian role model?